everyone, and welcome to the very first episode of Finally Fabulous podcast with me, Kate. I'm really excited. Why have I set up Finally Fabulous podcast? Well, one of the reasons is because my mate said, why don't you set up a podcast? Because I was lacking a bit of creativity in my life, but also because I wanted to tell my story and listen to other people's stories too. Finally Fabulous is a podcast that embraces the brilliant, bold choices that some unstoppable women have made in their life. Those moments when they've embraced their fuck it moments. What is a fuck it moment? We're talking about that naggy little voice in the back of your head telling you that there's a choice for you to make. And it's because you want to make it, not because you need to make it. And fuck it, make it. It'll be okay. See it through. And in doing so, bring some joy back into your life. My fuck it moment started 8 years ago when I set up my own business. It gave me the freedom to work when I wanted and work with some amazing clients on a variety of different projects. I've never looked back. And now I have another fuck it moment because I'm setting up this podcast that's going to bring the creativity and joy back into my life. Who knows how good it'll be, but I'm willing to give it a go. It could be pants, but let's go and see what happens. For this first episode, I'm thrilled to be joined by my brilliantly badass friend Cara, who I've known for 22 years. We've been through quite a lot together. We chat about the wild, wonderful, and sometimes wobbly ride of motherhood, career, health setbacks, and all the other bits that come along the way. It's about evolving as women, about work, about life, and about your spirit. Finding joy in the little things, like plant babies, foraging for mushrooms, and really being surrounded by your wonderful tribe or your community, your friends and family who are there to support you no matter what. We really discuss how important it is to make sure that you're kind to yourself as you step into these new chapters in your life. Sure, not everything's going to go right, but keep with it and everything will come through okay. So grab your coffee or your wine and let's dive into feeling finally fabulous. Hello and welcome to this episode of Finally Fabulous. And today I have my very good friend Cara with me. I'm delighted to have you here. Welcome.
Thank you very much. It's lovely to be here.
So Cara, you've been through it all. You've had you are having an amazing career, and you're an award-winning business-to-business marketing person. You've had divorce thrown at you and the tough side of that. Both of us have had kids. We've had the trials of motherhood. We're now in our 50s. And I think along the way, there's been a lot of resilience. And today we're going to talk about some of those things, the importance of our tribe, personality and how we adapt to those things. And maybe some other stuff as well.
Yeah, I'm sure.
Just for good measure. But, there's lots of different fuck it moments along the way and lots of things that bring us joy. And I think you're testament to really how to keep reinventing when pathways have to change and you have to deal with things. So if we were to kind of talk about maybe, the motherhood side of things when we became mothers, and you actually lose a bit of your identity, don't you, over doing that?
Yeah.
I remember feeling the same.
For sure. I think, it's an incredible blessing, and I'm very aware, some people don't get to experience that. I think you're right, though. And I think certainly for you and I and the way we probably approached motherhood, we very much wanted to fully kind of fling ourselves into it. And I think that's wonderful. But there is a part of you that has to kind of change and morph and go into that very willingly. I think it's not just the relationship you're building with your child, but it's all of those experiences and things that you want them to have that perhaps you didn't have growing up. And I know you and I have talked quite a lot about that. So for me, motherhood was a surprise. I didn't think I was going to be able to have children. I had Tom in 2003 and then Will in 2007. So 2 boys. Again, I think parenting, you could have a whole podcast on parenting boys.
Definitely.
And
girls. And girls with their eyebrows.
Absolutely. But I think, you go through those stages And again, you're having to adapt along the way. And I'm now at the stage of empty nest.
Yes.
Like yourself.
Yeah.
And, again, how you parent shifts. And all this time, you're kind of preparing for your child to leave.
Yeah, exactly.
And that has certainly hit me harder than I thought it would, in terms of, okay, so what is my purpose now as a parent? And letting go and making sure that my sons don't feel guilty about going off and doing the very thing that I wanted them to do, which was to be independent, explore the world,
live their lives.
Yeah,
and really live their life.
Yes.
Not part of your life now.
No,
exactly. It's a shift for the kids as well, and that's hard for us as well. Even though we want that to happen, it's hard for us too.
Yeah, definitely. The house is very quiet, but I'm having to balance my own need for connection and communication with the independence that they need to be able to. Well, he needs to be able to go forward. Tom is obviously a few years older.
Yeah.
He's very much on that path. For Will and I, we're kind of feeling our way a little bit with it. And I'm very lucky in the sense that I do have a son who is communicative and, will tell me what's going on. But I also have to respect his privacy now and his independence. And I feel quite bereft at times. It is really hard just not having that family unit together, the family unit that I fought so hard for.
Yeah.
It's
I know exactly what you mean. And it is really hard, even when, to be honest, I felt it when I left Alice at nursery the first time. It's like part of you is gone, part of you has been left behind. And then there's stages all the way up through their lives when that happens. But yes, it is part of that letting go, and time will obviously help, as it always does. And
it's very soon. It's very soon for me.
Yeah.
It's only been a few weeks, and it doesn't help that my husband kind of travels a lot as well. So it's just been me and the cat at home, and again, this whole thing around this whole thing around purpose and identity, really starts to come to the forefront, because it's kind of like, well, that part of my job as a mother has gone now. I've done what I needed to do. I'm still a parent, and I'm obviously still his mum.
Yes.
But in a different way. And so what do I do to fill that hole?
Yeah.
Motherhood was very purposeful for me. It was an incredibly purposeful journey I had with my kids. I learned so much about myself, about sharing myself, about learning my own vulnerabilities and my own fears. I think you have terrible fear as a parent. I still do. And I know you do. That's something you and I share, and we talk about it a lot. This underlying fear that you have, that have I taught them well enough? Have I done enough to protect them? Will they make the right decisions? Purpose then becomes redefined. I can't be that kind of parent anymore. So the parenting side of things becomes a lot less in terms of the time that's required. So you kind of have this gap you have to fill. And it's kind of like, I find myself going backwards quite a lot in terms of who I was before I had children.
That's interesting.
What are the things that brought me joy? Because I got a lot of joy from being a parent, particularly when the kids were younger.
Yeah.
So what fills that joy gap?
Interesting. And that's where you're up to now.
Yes.
And we want to talk about, some of the issues which will be kind of career related, and obviously that have impacted, because work is such a massive part of us and in our own identity, because we actually get to be Kate and Cara when we're at work and when we're doing the things, which is just us. We're not Alice's mum, Will's mum, Tom's mum. We're not some so-and-so's husband.
Yeah.
Husband? Oh, even wife. But yeah, and so, you had, whilst you were working, you had several different really strong careers, career moments. And tell us a bit about when, I want to get to your kind of fuck it moment and what happened during that time.
Yeah, it's you're right. I mean, career has been a massive part of my identity. And I've been very blessed to have had some really awesome kind of work experiences. I've done a lot of travel. I'm a marketeer, career marketeer like yourself. I think, the evolution that we've kind of been through has meant that it's been a constantly evolving, a constantly interesting career to have. For me, I think that balance of motherhood and career was very, very challenging at times. And I think if I look back retrospectively, I was running at such a pace all the time that it was kind of inevitable I would hit a burnout moment. Teenagedom impending, a fairly tricky divorce, which I was a little bit blindsided by, and then my health challenges, which is something we'll talk about. But I think, first of all, the non-diagnosis of what was going on with me, and that fear of like, why am I feeling like this at sort of 38, 39 years old, 40 years old? Why am I feeling so dreadful? What is going on with my body? And the impact of all of those things in my life, when I felt like I should have been at the top of my game. This was meant to be my moment. Yeah. My career was going incredibly well. I was at MasterCard, I was, to all intents and purposes, it looked like I could really kind of make something of myself. And I discovered a drive and a passion for what I was doing that I didn't know was there. So to then suddenly be in the middle of emotional kind of torment with very conflicting feelings around a divorce, worrying about my children, obviously, in that context. And then myself, and trying to get to the bottom of what was going on with me health-wise, it all came to this kind of fuck it moment of, well, something has to change here. It really does have to change. Otherwise, I am just not going to make it through. I'm fucked. Yeah.
And how did you kind of get to that decision? What made that final moment happen? Was it something in your gut that you just like you say, I've got to make a change, or was it something else?
I had probably about 2 weeks of, every time I went into work and every time I came out of Bank Station, I convinced myself I was going to die.
Right. Okay.
I was utterly convinced I was going to be hit by a bus or a taxi or something.
Wow. Terrifying.
Terrifying. Like, literally, I was so convinced I was going to die. And I started walking down towards the office, and I just remember my brain just kind of went totally to mush. And I just started sobbing. I was outside an insurance company, and this lovely guy just kind of took charge of me. I couldn't even really explain to him what had happened. Do you know what I mean? I was just broken. I couldn't stop crying, and this lovely stranger was so concerned. And he walked me to the office, straight to HR, and I sat there and I said, I just don't think I'm coping.
Right.
And I had a first diagnosis of fibromyalgia at that point. But it was obvious to me there was something else going on. So there were a lot of medical investigation, just things kept breaking on me. And also I had a lot of gynecological issues, which led up to the hysterectomy that I eventually had in 2018. And so, to cut a long story short, I negotiated an exit out of my job. And I took 9 months to just kind of figure out, what does the world look like now?
What is going on?
Yeah.
And what's happening to you? And it was very necessary to do that. Also very brave to do that. I mean, actually your body was telling you enough, that there is no more now. You have to do something. I'm forcing you to take time.
Yeah.
To take time out. And And that was dreadful that you had to go through that, and terrible. And thank goodness that guy came to support you, and also that your company was supportive of that.
Yeah, I mean,
To an extent.
in retrospect, was an exit the right thing for me? I don't know. I think in 2016 we weren't talking about mental health in the way that we are talking about it now.
Yeah, thank goodness we are talking.
Thank
about
goodness
it.
we are
Much more
talking
open.
about it. I think I was also, what I didn't know was I was in horrible perimenopause at sort of 37, 38. I didn't know that because, again, we weren't talking about it
don't talk
in
about that.
2014,
No.
2015. And so it took me a lot longer then than it would now, I think, to go, okay, tick the box.
Yeah.
Like total burnout. You're going through a divorce, you're perimenopausal, you've got a bunch of gynecological issues. Your body's kind of doing weird and wonderful things. You're ending up in hospital every 6 months with,
and you're trying to hold down a job.
And by the way, you're trying to be superwoman at work and raise 2 boys. It was just kind of like this perfect storm. And I think one of the great assets that I've had through the last sort of 12, 13 years has been understanding where my strengths lie. I'd always been very good at articulating my weaknesses, but it wasn't till I went through this process of thinking about strengths and working with my lovely coach and mentor, Jill. And suddenly I was like, right, well, the thing I have to draw on here is my strength of being adaptive. And that was the fuck it moment where it was like, right, okay, so what has to shift in order for me to be able to move on? Because carrying on was the way I wasn't an option. Stopping entirely wasn't an option because I was divorced. I was responsible for paying for my children. And paying for myself.
And also too young, too young to stop.
Right.
Yeah,
exactly.
Absolutely. It's so much to give still.
So yeah, it was that 9 months was really this period of a lot of self-reflection, a lot of trying to heal myself, a lot of drawing on support from friends around the hole that I was in, trying to dig yourself out of that. That is then where the tribe piece comes in. And I know we're going to talk about that as well.
Yeah. But before we do that, I want to just talk about the strengths side that you talk about. I think it'd be interesting for you to explain that a bit more and the kind of process of understanding like where your strengths are.
Yeah.
And I imagine that getting to that, you have to see yourself in that process and you have to go, yeah, that does feel right.
Yeah. Absolutely. I mean, a lot about psychological kind of profiling. You've got the Myers-Briggs, you've got the red, green, blue,
yellow,
whatever it is. And what I learned were the strengths that I have. I assumed everybody had them.
Yeah, of course.
I assumed everybody could do these things. And then suddenly when you look at I think it's 32 or 34 strengths that have been articulated through this process, you go, oh my God. And working with consulting women, so 2 amazing women, Jill and Moira, and I'd been put on this leadership program with MasterCard, I really learned to be able to articulate and draw on those strengths, both in a professional and a personal context. And being able to do that is a really, really powerful thing, actually.
I was just going to say, it is really powerful. And I also think that realising that, it's realising where your weaknesses are, actually, and being okay with that. And that stupid interview question, it's like, what's your strengths and weaknesses? You'd be like, well, actually, I can tell you the whole thing.
I love that question. Like, genuinely.
I can tell you. I know exactly what it
it's
is.
not, because often you can go into an interview, what are your strengths?
I'm really good at making tea.
But yeah, you're not trying to pick something out of the ether.
Yeah.
I can go, well, I can talk about being adaptive. I can talk about maximizer, which is my personal favorite. Maximizer's awesome.
And that sounds like a gladiator name.
I know, doesn't it? But it's a curse and a blessing being a maximizer. I would lay bets you have maximizer as one of your strengths. Strategic, ideation is another big one. And so sometimes your strengths can shift a little. You can do it like 5 years later. One of the ones that disappeared after I kind of suddenly didn't have such a big team, my strengths shifted. And actually, as you progress through your career, some of the ones you have lower down in your career around like delivery and, you know, being all about kind of a doer.
Yes.
Suddenly you're more in the kind of thinking space.
Yeah.
You know, you're more strategic, you're more about kind of analysis and that kind of thing. So, but my two core ones have always stayed the same, adaptive and maximizer. And those are the ones still now when I find myself a little bit spirally.
Yes.
I think, right, you know you're good with, you can do change. You've proven you can do change.
Remember you've got this as your strength.
Exactly.
Yes.
And look for those things that you can have a positive impact on and don't be frightened of it. Maximizer gives you the ability to go beyond.
Okay.
So you don't just look at that thing in front of you. You think about how you could take it and make it bigger. My natural inclination is I can't just settle on one thing. I want to keep my options open.
Yeah.
And as you get older, naturally, your options start shutting down. And so for someone with my kind of personality type, that's actually quite scary.
Yeah. So let's talk a bit more about your tribe. And well, I've heard it called tribe. I've heard it called a village.
Yes.
There's lots of different words for it, actually. But my tribe is really important to me. I'm surrounded by fantastic girlfriends. My sisters are really good as well. People at work, Alice, you know, everybody. I see things and I find out that I ask advice from people in different ways because I know what they're going to give me in different ways. And you know, how important was it for you to have your tribe around you? You've got fantastic friends from Sussex University who've been with you for years, right?
Yeah, I mean, over 30 years now. I've got friends from home where it's closer to
They've seen lots of mischief
years.
as well, I imagine.
Lots of mischief, which thank goodness we didn't have social media, right? I mean,
yes, thank goodness.
Can you imagine? I remember, I think it was just after I had Will, I was reading a magazine and there was a brilliant article and it was about this kind of career woman who on the face of it looked like she had it all and she was doing it all. And then behind her, they'd taken a picture of what they called her squad.
Right.
So it was all of the people in her life who enabled her to be able to be the success she was at work. And it was a real eye-opener for me because suddenly it was like, right, okay, this is much more than just turning up at work, looking like this quite intimidating, doing it all character. And this woman was literally unpeeling the layers behind it and saying, you know what, I have a whole bunch of people who have different roles in my life that enable me to show up and be this person at work. And I thought that was really interesting from a work perspective, right? Because we don't talk about, you know, the people who enable us and allow us to be able to do that. And, you know, we've talked a lot about the importance of having the right partner.
Yeah, the right partner.
To be able to do that at a really fundamental level. Have you got the right partner who's enabling you to do that? But it then got me thinking about if you went wider with that, even like the different roles that your friends have, you know,
for sure.
And understanding those dynamics and those relationships and being able to kind of add to your tribe as you go, which is a wonderful thing, I think, as we get older. You know, I've the last sort of year or so, I've made a new wonderful friend that was very, very unexpected. And, you know, she gives me something that, you know, I didn't know I was almost kind of missing.
Yes, yeah.
And that acceptance piece again, like, you know, okay, I'm not, for reasons we'll probably talk about, the super career woman anymore. You know, my health has taken quite a dramatic turn in that regard. And this is someone who'd seen me at work for a very short period of time, but had approached me and was like, you know, I think you're really interesting, and wanted me to be a bit of a mentor. And then we became friends.
Firm friends.
And, you know, that's been marvelous. But this idea of tribe or squad or team or gang or whatever it is such a fundamental part, I think, of being a woman. And the reason why women thrive, I think, is because of that network that they have behind them. I don't believe you can do it on your own.
No,
I just don't believe you can.
I don't believe so either. And I think if you look at all of our friends who have their own tribes around them, I mean, everybody I know has a tribe around them of sorts.
Yes.
I mean, it can be different sizes and, you know, shapes and all sorts of things. And it doesn't matter if it's one person or more than one person, you know, you're just drawing on. But it's because I think that women are generally much better at making connections and much better at admitting that we need help. And we want to collaborate and find help and, you know, and open the door and let people in. And better just at being emotional, really, and just coming down with people on their level. And definitely I've also made some really good friends in the last 5 years, probably. Just through now having my own business and like finding new clients and making connections. And, you know, I love people generally, like fuel my energy. And you know, you need people as well to a certain extent as well. And I think we generally are better at doing that than men. I mean, not all men, obviously, because that would be a massive generalization. But generally, I think just we can connect to people on a much more emotional level.
Yeah. And, you know, I think being able to acknowledge your own vulnerability as well, and it being okay for you to be vulnerable with those people. This theme that has always sat with me is this idea, this concept of authenticity. And it was something I really wrestled with at work about, particularly when I was younger in my career. You know, how do I show up being authentic? I am emotional. I am heart on my sleeve. I am, you know, someone who's very kind of big picture. I'm not great down in the detail. And in the work context, in the kind of, you know, early 2000s, it was very much you put on your face, you put on your mask. I found that really, really hard. And one of the things that I think has been such a positive shift in the workplace in the last sort of 5 years in particular has been a much more kind of positive place for people to be authentic and for them to be able to show up to work in their kind of authentic state. So, you know, again, your tribe is someone who, a group of people where you can be whatever version of yourself and it's accepted and it's understood and it's embraced. And for me, growing up, I felt I didn't have that at all. I always felt very out of place. I never felt like I was good enough. I never felt that I was welcomed in my authentic state. And that's why, in particular, my Sussex University girlfriends are so important, because that was the first time I showed up as me. And they went, oh, yeah, actually, we quite like that. That's okay.
But I think that's important to talk about, because when we have to show up as ourselves, and it's okay to show up as yourself, and you have to be authentic and just be you and allow everyone else to decide what they want to. But, you know, we did struggle with that growing up, because we were expected to be something else. And especially as women, you know, in the workplace and having kids and everything we went through, relationships and everything. And it was, you know, you were just expected to get on with that and then be this amazing person. And you can't just be that. And even from what you had to wear and, you know, how you had to look, and, you know, you worked in the city and that would have been ridiculous, and, you know, stuff you had to wear.
Oh, I mean, you know, I look back at some of the horror stories of my first job, you know, where I was the one I always tell about, wearing my Joseph trouser suit on the first day. And I was so chuffed, you know, and 23 years old, I'd spent my first pay packet on a Joseph trouser. It was beautiful. I still remember it. And I got called into the office of the head of communications, and he said, stand by that table. I stood by the table, and he put his hand a little bit higher than the table. He said, that's the height of your skirt that I expect to see you wearing.
Oh my God.
Not a trouser suit.
That's incredible.
Turn up in a skirt
Wow.
next time. And, you know, this leads on to this whole thing that I you know, you talk to the younger generation, you tell that story. I can see Alice's face, our producer, who's just going, what the fuck?
Yeah.
And exactly, you know, like, what the fuck?
Yeah, but my sister had the same. She worked in law firms. She had the same. But very recently, I worked in a quite corporate and a PR company, and you were expected to wear heels and those kind of things. And I'm like, what?
What is this?
Yeah. And then there's other companies, thank God, where you can literally turn up in jeans and, you know, just turn up as you. Don't worry about it. Just be yourself, you know. And there's a good thing, you know, you need to be whatever is right for that, for your environment.
Yeah, absolutely. But I think, you know, Generation X, so like us lot, I think the biggest word that springs to mind for me about Gen X women is resilience.
Yes.
Is resilience and adaptation. Because I think we've seen so much, you know, if you've started work kind of in the 90s, you know, and the transformation just of the workplace, the role of women in the workplace, and this constant kind of reinvention we've had to do, and how resilient you have to be to survive that, I think is something that doesn't get recognized enough. It isn't talked about enough. And that's the reason why I think, you know, now you have this incredible bunch of 50-something women with all of this life experience and, you know, this transformation just of the way that the world has worked, and these women who've got all this experience that they can draw on and kind of be empowered to talk about now. And I think that's really exciting, which is why I think you're doing such a great job with this, because the stories are incredibly inspiring. And hopefully for the younger generation of women who are coming up, hearing about our mistakes, hearing about the things that, you know, we've done and the things that we've learned, they're going to be able to get that on that trajectory towards authenticity, towards being truly comfortable with who they are and truly empowered in the decisions they're making. I'd feel like that was a bit of a job well done and a win.
Yeah, thank you. And that's exactly what we're aiming to do here, of course, with the podcast, is to bring those stories to life. And you, when you're talking about resilience, it's in the workplace, yes, but it's also how the world is changing around. So being a mother is completely changed from how it was perceived to be, you know, when our mums were bringing us up. And with social media and everything, just like out of control. It's so hard to control and help your kids now through their lives and everything. And it's going to continue like that with, you know, when our kids have kids, you know, the generations on, it's just going to continue and continue. But resilience is built, it's almost like it's built into women, particularly from, you know, let's just deal with what we have to deal with. And, you know, cavemen need to go out and get the meat and bring it in and whatever. Yeah. But it's almost like it's kind of instinctively inside us to do that. But bloody hell, we do a good job of it.
Yeah.
We really do.
I think it's in Fleabag, where Fleabag is in a bar and she's talking to an older woman. Kristen Scott Thomas is playing her.
Fantastic.
And there's this brilliant kind of scene where Kristen Scott Thomas's character is talking about how pain is inherent in being a woman. Like, we are born knowing we are going to experience pain, physical pain in particular, through periods and childbirth and menopause and all of that. And then she talks about menopause being this kind of liberating sort of fuck it moment where suddenly you don't care anymore. And I think for a lot of women, you know, their fuck it moment actually is coming through the other side of menopause and going, right, do you know what? I have no fucks left to give. They've left the building. They've gone. And now I've got this period of time now where it is okay to be me. Yeah. And the motherhood thing you're still a mother, but it's shifted. Yeah. Your body has changed. You're no longer designed to, you know, carry and care for children. Physically, you know, things are different. But what a moment to kind of go, right, if I don't do it now, when will I do it?
Because my mind is still there and my mind still has so much to give. and in whatever that looks like.
Yeah.
You know, if people decide to retire or not retire, or go and be trustees or NEDs or traveling or whatever it is, but there's still so much to give, and it's not the end. Like,
No,
you know,
it's not the
more
end.
there.
And I think also accepting that you may have health challenges, and that requires constant redefinition and reframing. And for me, I had to have a lot of therapy and a lot of help in accepting my limitations and framing it around, what can I still do?
Yeah.
What are the things, now that I have a physical disability?
Yeah.
What are the things that I can still do that bring me joy, that make me who I am, and trying not to frame it in the context of all the things I feel I've lost, because we do feel a huge sense of loss, I think, once we get to our 50s, in terms of our identity, in terms of how we look and how we feel. You know, youth is a very much still a prized asset for humanity. And we need to be much more accepting and kinder to ourselves about the process of getting older, the process of perhaps physically feeling like we're failing, and being able to redefine how we sit in the world and finding those things that still bring us joy.
For sure. And I think for me, we're also looking at our parents, you know, and how they're aging. And that I'm thinking about that a lot for myself, you know, with, you know, what am I going to be like? How much time do we have left, you know, to really make the most of it? It really makes you think about those things in a completely different way.
Yeah, definitely.
And you know, we're kind of in this sandwich generation.
Literally the sandwich generation, aging parents and young adults.
And I was thinking, when I was thinking about the day, I ended up going, what is my favourite sandwich? and I think it's chicken avocado, actually.
That's a nice sandwich. Yeah, nice sandwich.
So yeah, and you know, it is tough, and we have to be resilient for, you know, everybody around us. But don't forget yourself
again,
and really think about that. So, you know, you are at another pathway, you're in another change in what's happening with your next adventure, really, and that's the best way to think about it.
Yes,
and what could it be?
It is an adventure.
What could it be?
I keep having these kind of mad thoughts around like mushrooms and jaguar rescue.
Right. What kind of mushrooms are we talking?
Well, I don't know. I like mushrooms, but I don't know where it fits in.
Okay.
So like autumn is very exciting for me.
Are they naughty mushrooms, or are they?
They're autumn mushrooms.
Naughty mushrooms.
No, I'm not confident enough to pick them and eat them.
Right. Okay.
Not good. No. But I am thinking seriously. I mean, I'm at a place now where I still want to work.
Yes.
But I've got to decide what that looks like. So full-time work now is no longer an option. My corporate career, if you like, you know, has kind of come to an end. And so it is time for another redefine.
Yeah. And I know it's taken you a while to kind of come to grips with that.
Yeah, it has. Yeah.
I mean, obviously you've had the medical side of that's kind of brought that to a fore for you as well.
Yes.
But your brain still works. And there's still so much that you can give back that we've talked about, or give of yourself, or you know, just fill your mind with different things.
And I'm excited about
and
that.
do something that you want to do.
Yeah, exactly. And I'm thinking about the things that bring me joy, and how do I try and weave that into my life? I mean, I have to also accept my experiences in a certain area, and you know, that is something that I would be crazy not to try and draw on for the next few years. But I think it is now thinking about that life where motherhood and corporate career and societal expectations are no longer the kind of focus.
The driving force.
It is about going, right, it's you now. It's you. And I have an amazing husband, and I have, you know, that constant support and acceptance of who I am. And I'm so grateful every day that I've had him by my side, particularly over the last few years and the health stuff that's happened. But we find a lot of joy together, and I'm really excited about what that next phase will look like for us. And also, you know, my friendships, and seeing how all of my friends now are are developing and really starting to take more risks and have adventures. And I love talking about adventures because there's still so much to do out there.
There is so much to do out there. So what would you say to yourself 10 years ago? Because that was obviously quite a tumultuous time for you then.
I would say, fuck me, mate. You think it's going to get better in a year. It's not. You've got 10 years of it being really quite hard.
But it's going to be okay.
But it's going to be okay.
Get through.
And remember to breathe. Remember to try and think about the lessons that you are learning through this process, and really hold on to and find those moments of joy, and try and step out of yourself and look at the kind of wonder of things. And I think COVID in particular taught me a lot about the wonder of things, in particular kind of nature and growing things and mushrooms and the outdoors. And I think about you and I and the walking we've done and exploring your own environment. So I think, I'd say, I wish I could say it's going to be kind of like unicorns and rainbows. It isn't. It's going to be tough. It's going to be tough, but you will come out of it and you will find a peace and a joy that you didn't think was kind of going to be possible right now.
Yeah, that's good. I like that. So let's think about some of your moments of joy then.
I mean, music is a big one for me. I've just done an a cappella singing course, which was a lot of fun. I've discovered Youngblood this year, who has transformed my life in many ways musically.
Yeah.
And I think, just having the time, I'm very grateful for the time I've had, and being able to deepen my connection with my friends. I've had friends this year who have been in and out of work, who have had health things, and I've been able to show up and be there. And that's been lovely. I've had more time with my family. Getting outside and being in nature, being by the sea, big thing for me. And travel, I was lying in bed last night, I didn't sleep very well. Sleep is still a thing.
Will that ever not be a thing for me or you or anyone else?
So it's 3 a.m. and I'm going through what I have done this year and where I have been.
I mean, that probably wouldn't help you sleep, I'm just saying.
No.
Anyway.
I don't know what does at that moment, really.
No.
But I was just thinking, these experiences I've had, these new places I've been to, that brings me so much joy. I mean, standing up a volcano in the middle of Iceland with it being freezing,
incredible,
and a huge volcano warning that the thing could go off at any minute. I felt alive, I felt alive. And Japan with Will, going with my son to Japan, every day was just this joyful adventure. So there's a lot that brings me joy.
Yeah. You have had some amazing travelling experiences this year.
Very, very lucky to do that.
So a few takeaways for everybody.
Don't be too hard on yourself. Like, life is tough right now. And absolutely think about those connections that you have and how you can deepen them, how you can show up authentically. And if you feel you can't do that, then really think about the purpose of that person in your life. Because I think it's very easy to waste time on people who aren't good for us or people who don't value us in the same way. So learn your self-worth in that respect.
Just one thing I would actually add to that would be also think about the environment that you're putting yourself into and whether that's right for you, or whether you need to make the decision that that's not right for you. You need to change, whether that's work or home environment, whatever it is.
Yeah. Health challenges will come. It's inevitable as we get older. Think about how you ride those out and make sure that you are thinking about how you reframe if it's something that is going to be with you.
Yes.
So I think, it's quite a scary time to be a disabled or a sick person or an old person, particularly in this country right now. And so I think being really honest about that and thinking about that and planning for that and being able to adapt to those circumstances, I think is really important.
Yeah,
I think being honest about the things that bring you joy, and they might be a bit weird, like going to an owl sanctuary or going and looking at mushrooms at 8 a.m. in Swinley Forest, which was what I did with my goddaughter a couple of weeks ago. Embrace the weird.
Yes, embrace
is what
the
I say.
weird.
Embrace the weird, and just go with it and find people who, either share that or, will laugh along when you're talking about how exciting it is to find 30 different types of mushroom up at the forest. And I think, above anything else, I think it's this idea of being kind.
Yeah.
Being kind in all things you do, and particularly be kind to yourself, because I think it was the great Robin Williams who said, everybody is having a battle that you know nothing about.
Yes.
And I often think about that. And this being kind is so important, and have kindness in your life because you deserve it, but make sure you give it out to the world.
Yeah, for sure. I love that. And I love, joy for me is having you here today.
Oh, yay! I've loved it. I love talking to you. We're so close and so many shared experiences, and I'm so grateful. I'm really grateful.
Oh, so am I. You're very special.
Look at us. We're so lovely.
Thank you so much for coming.
You're so welcome. Thank you for having me
today. You look fabulous.
Thank
and
you.
Just talking to you today and hearing that for me, you sound like you are finally fabulous.
Oh,
Are ready for the next journey?
I hope so. I'm feeling more fabulous than I have done in a long time. Stop it. You're going to make me cry.
I know,
Stop
you're
it.
making me teary now.
I'm feeling more fabulous than I have done in a long time. It's been quite a journey. So thank you for saying that.
Well done. Thank you, Cara. I'll speak to you later.
Thank you, Kate.
Bye, everyone.